Listen closely, because what I'm about to tell you is something I've kept silent for more than 5 decades. Something that followed me, watched me, and fed on me long before you were even born. You think your anxiety comes from work, from pressure, from bills, from the chaos of the modern world. But the truth is simpler, darker, and older than anything in your daily life. Your anxiety is not yours. It never was. It belongs to something else. Something that whispers into the cracks of your thoughts when you're most vulnerable. Something that thrives in a world where your mind is constantly distracted, constantly tired, constantly overstimulated. And that is exactly what it wants. Because this force, this presence, is ancient, patient, and absolutely relentless. And tonight, I'm going to tell you what it really is. But before I do, hear me clearly. If you're feeling anxious right now, if your chest is tight, if your breath is shallow, if your stomach feels heavy, it's listening, and it knows you're about to understand it. So stay with me. Don't look away. Don't pause this. You need to hear this to the end, or it will continue to grow inside you without you ever knowing why. Now, before we go deeper, I need to ask you for something important. If you haven't subscribed to this channel yet, do it now, not for me, but for yourself. Because what you'll learn here is something almost no one else will dare to explain. And the moment you understand the truth behind what has been draining your peace, your anxiety will never have the same power over you again. So subscribe, leave your like, and come with me. What I'm about to reveal might be the piece you've been missing your whole life. You see, when I was young, like you, I believed anxiety was a flaw, a defect in my personality, a weakness in my character, something I needed to fix by working harder, being stronger, being more disciplined. But I was wrong. All of us were. Anxiety is not a mistake. It's a signal, a reaction to a presence that doesn't belong in us, a presence that shouldn't be here at all. If you ever felt like your thoughts weren't entirely your own, if you ever had panic without reason, if your body reacted like you were in danger even when nothing was happening, you have felt it brushing against your mind. And for the longest time, humanity didn't have a name for this. They called it spirits, demons, shadows, curses, bad energy, intrusive thoughts. But none of those words were precise enough. They were all metaphors, attempts to describe something they didn't fully understand, but desperately wanted to. And in their fear, in their confusion, they left behind clues, carvings, stories, rituals, symbols, but no explanation good enough to survive the centuries. Because each generation kept forgetting, kept losing pieces of the truth, kept ignoring the thing that was always there. Waiting. I only learned the truth when I was 23 years old. It was late, past midnight. I was lying in bed after a week of feeling an anxiety so heavy I could barely breathe at times. It felt like something was crouched on my chest, even though logically, I knew nothing was there. And as I tried to calm myself, I heard it. A sound I will never forget. A low, rhythmic vibration, like a whisper without words. Not outside, not in the room, inside my own mind, as if something was leaning close and feeding off my fear. My skin turned cold, my breath froze, and I felt, for the first time, that I was not alone. But here's the part that matters. It didn't feel human. It didn't feel like any presence I'd ever felt before. It felt like an observer, like an intelligence that did not understand human suffering, but knew exactly how to trigger it. And when my fear spiked, when my chest tightened, when my heartbeat accelerated, I felt it ripple with satisfaction. That was the moment I realized anxiety was not simply happening to me. It was being activated in me. You've felt this too, haven't you? That sudden drop in your stomach for no reason. That tightening in your throat right when you're about to sleep. That sensation that something is wrong even when your life is perfectly fine. What if I told you those moments aren't your body malfunctioning, but your mind reacting to an external touch? A touch from something that feeds on what you feel. Now, most people will never notice it. They'll blame stress, diet, hormones, work, relationships. But deep down, there's a reason anxiety feels so unnatural, so alien, so disconnected from logic. That's because it is. And the more the modern world overwhelms you with information, with noise, with lights, with screens, with constant stimulation, the easier it becomes for it to reach you. The door opens wider. The cracks in your mind become easier to slip through. And it doesn't need to control you. It only needs to trigger you. Imagine a creature that cannot touch the physical world, but can influence emotion. Imagine it feeds not on flesh, not on energy, but on attention, on your mental focus, on the heat of your fear. Every time your heart races, every time your thoughts spiral, every time you feel like you're losing control, it gets stronger. Not enough to harm you physically, not enough to reveal itself clearly, just enough to keep you in a constant loop of almost okay, almost breaking. That is its design. And the more I learned, the more I realized this force works on a scale much larger than individuals. It doesn't only feed on you, it feeds on entire societies. The rise of modern anxiety was not a coincidence. It was not the result of technology or work pressure or the fast pace of life. Those things only made the environment richer for it, more fertile, more predictable. Because a distracted society is vulnerable. A tired society is vulnerable. A society constantly comparing, constantly rushing, constantly doubting itself is the perfect feeding ground. And you know the most terrifying part? It doesn't need you to believe in it for it to work. It only needs you to feel. Fear is universal. Doubt is universal. Internal chaos is universal. And it slips inside through the smallest crack, a moment of insecurity, a bad memory resurfacing, a silent night where your thoughts are too loud. That is when it enters. That is when it whispers a feeling that is not yours, but feels entirely personal. You have felt it in crowded rooms where you suddenly felt overwhelmed. You have felt it in moments of joy that suddenly turned into dread. You have felt it in the middle of the night when your mind invents dangers that don't exist. Those moments are not random. They're invitations, hooks, probes. And the more you react, the deeper it roots itself. But here's what it fears: hope, awareness, clarity. When you recognize that the surge of anxiety does not belong to you, something extraordinary happens. It loses grip, because it cannot feed on what you do not claim. Anxiety only grows when you believe the fear belongs to you. When you start asking, what's wrong with me? Why am I like this? Why can't I calm down? Because every one of those questions increases the emotional charge, the confusion, the turbulence. But when you say, this feeling is not mine, you break the loop. You starve it. You detach from its influence. And suddenly it becomes smaller, weaker, because it cannot control a mind that sees through its illusion. I learned this slowly, painfully. For years, I believed I was broken. For years, I thought I was battling myself. But the moment I understood that anxiety was a reaction, not a flaw, everything shifted. I stopped fighting myself and started confronting the presence behind the feeling. And that is when I began to reclaim my mind, my breath, my peace. Listen, I'm old now. I've lived long enough to recognize patterns most people ignore. And I'm telling you this not to scare you, but to liberate you. Anxiety is not a personal failing. It is a spiritual interaction, a collision between your internal world and a force that does not belong to it. You are not weak. You are not broken. You are sensitive enough to feel what others cannot. That sensitivity is not a curse. It is a doorway. And now that you know this, you have a choice. You can pretend this was just a story, or you can pay attention to the shifts inside you. The next time you feel that sudden wave of dread, instead of panicking, observe it. Don't claim it. Don't identify with it. Say calmly, "This feeling is not mine," and watch how quickly it dissolves. But remember, awareness is only the beginning. To weaken this force permanently, you must strengthen what it cannot touch: your presence, your breath, your inner quiet. It cannot feed on someone who is fully conscious of themselves. It cannot survive in a mind that refuses to let fear define it. And now, before you leave, I have one last request. If this message reached you deeply, if you felt something move inside you as I spoke, then leave a comment and tell me what part resonated. Subscribe to the channel, because there is far more for you to uncover, and each new understanding will weaken its hold on you even more. And don't forget the like. Not for numbers, not for the algorithm, but because every time you support this kind of knowledge, you're helping it spread to someone who desperately needs it. You're not alone in this. You never were. And now, finally, you know why.